And welcome everybody to the High Ground podcast. Today we are rounding out the trilogy. Yes, I've done episodes for each book in the Queen's trilogy, and yeah, we're bringing it home tonight, right here on the High Ground. All right. Hello, my awesome and esteemed guests. Thank you guys for joining me for this discussion. I feel weird being on this side, so I'm gonna swap us. Um, yeah, it just felt wrong. Uh, but yeah, how is everyone doing? We'll have us. We'll kind of go by and because you guys are all returning guests, all series regulars. So we'll go around and have you guys say who you are, where we can find you and your awesome content. And the question for today is if you could take a Star Wars character um, and put them in another film, another franchise, another genre. I don't care if this is putting the Grand Inquisitor in When Harry Met Sally, or if this is putting like General Hux in the middle of Scream, or like just go nuts with it. I'll go to Pep first.
Hello, thank you for having me, Chaco. I am Element 7. I am the other half of the Diet in the Force. You can find me on TikTok _Element 7 _ on YouTube Element 7. I just started a new series on TikTok called Star Wars, but obvious because a lot of people ask me questions that the answers are in the movies. So I'm just going to use the movies to answer all those questions. Um, of course, you can catch Chaco and I on Diet in the Force every Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm excited for Star Wars Celebration next month, and I know Eggy can't go.
Yeah.
Are you going, Danielle?
No.
Oh.
Well, there's always next time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like that's a threat. There's next time. So who
There
would
is
I?
another.
So who would I take from the Star Wars? I'm gonna keep it relevant, and I'm gonna say Sabe, and I'm gonna put her in a new Mission Impossible.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, that tracks. I like that. Awesome. All right. How about you, Eggy?
Hi, everyone. My name is Miss Eggy or Mary Lou. Either or is fine. I go by Miss Eggy on TikTok and Miss Eggy 28 on Twitter. I just do Star Wars content and also just like Batman content. Yeah, I'm just like anytime I get invited to come back on to either of your guys' podcasts, or well, Chaco's and then the both of yours for Diet, I'm always so happy. I love you guys so much. And Danielle, it's so nice to meet you. I don't think we've met yet, right?
No, we haven't. It's nice to meet
No,
you.
very nice to meet you. And yeah, I'm so excited to talk about this book. Oh my God, it's going to be great. I have so many feels. I am so pumped. I love Padme. So yes, I hope I can do her justice on here. If I could pick, you know what? I'm going to make Pong Krell a Fast and the Furious villain.
That just works.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I'm rewatching the Umbara arc. We saw a house today, so I like rushed home and I cooked dinner in like 45 minutes, just barely. And I'm going to do the Umbara arc tomorrow on Luke's podcast. And so I was like rewatching that in the background while I'm making spaghetti, like desperately like rushing. And I was like, oh God, this guy sucks. I forgot how much he sucks. I was like, you know what? He'd be a good Fast and the Furious villain for sure.
That's awesome. Mostly awesome because I am also doing that arc, and that makes me excited.
Yes, yes.
As soon as Luke. By the way, Pod One's podcast, check him out. Slowly going through all of Clone Wars and Rebels, as well as hosting a badass trivia tournament. A match just dropped between Xanatos and Element 7 today, and yeah, it was pretty exciting to watch. If you want to find out who won, you gotta rewatch it. But the final boss in that tournament is yours truly. So we'll see if they have if they can take me down.
A formidable foe, to be sure.
I mean, the final boss always gets defeated.
That's true.
Eventually, but they're the final boss for a reason. Like,
True. But your destiny is to be defeated.
anyways, last but not least, we have Danielle. Where can we find you in your awesome content? And who would you displace from Star Wars?
Yes. So on TikTok, I'm written in the Star Wars, and on Instagram, written in the SW. But yeah, I chose kind of the obvious one because I'm a huge Rogue One stan. And Emily's talked about the Hunger Games to Rogue One pipeline, Hunger Games stan to Rogue One pipeline, and I think that the entire cast of Rogue One would fit perfectly into the Hunger Games, but especially Jyn Erso and Cassian.
Okay. I kind of want more of that story. Like, but yeah, no, they would absolutely.
Chirrut and Baze from the same district.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome. I love it. For me, I have to say, what I would do is I would have to take out my boy Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I honestly, I just really want to put him in a rom-com. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like it would just be he'd be hilarious and like charming. You just put him. It doesn't really even matter which rom-com, but I just need a romantic comedy starring Obi-Wan Kenobi because it sounds hilarious.
I feel like it would have to be a Christmas rom-com,
Oh.
like a reboot of Love
That'd be
Actually.
And you can wear like I always imagine Obi-Wan in like a big like cable knit sweater because it's Obi-Wan, and that'd be perfect. You could do a Lifetime movie where he goes back to his small town and learns the meaning of Christmas because he grew up in a Christmas tree farm town. I don't know.
now I'm picturing it's like Grievous is like the Grinch or like like Scrooge in this story, and he's taken over. Like he's like taking over like a small bookstore that Satine runs or something like that.
Oh,
He wants to make it corporate. It's like You Got Mail, but like but like Christmas.
Oh man, CJ's is
Right on the nose. Put him in a Scooby-Doo movie.
Oh,
Well, it fits.
It does.
That would be awesome. I'm definitely into that. Awesome. All right, so wanted to jump in here and kind of get started on your guys' feel for Padme as a character, and yeah, just from the films when you jumped in and watched them for the first time, how did you feel about Padme? And have you read the other books in the series? Like, how do those two kind of gel together? And I'll go to Aggie first.
Oh, I love Padme. Padme was a big was a big awakening for me. Like I had such a crush on her. I was like, oh no, oh no. She's just gorgeous, and I love my favorite types of female characters are female characters that are very strong, but they don't have to sacrifice their femininity to be strong. And so her role is perfect, in the prequel and all of the prequels and all of the extended media about the prequels, especially these books, because she wields soft power. She's not a soldier or a warrior. She can handle herself, but she's not. That's not her landscape. Like that's Anakin's thing. And I love politics. So I always joke about whenever people say, talk about the prequels, like who's interested in politics and the Star Wars universe? I'm like, me, I like it. It's really interesting. Trade embargoes. Let's go, but I think she's such a great character. And also I've been saying for years, arguably the protagonist of The Phantom Menace, because she's the closest thing to a protagonist in that movie. And as the prequels go on, her role gets more more and more diminished until she's just kind of pregnant, sitting in rooms. And I'm like, oh no, George, give her something to do. So all of the extended media in the Clone Wars and in these books have just brought so much more life to her. And I love her character so much. And these two, yes, I read the other two books, and I waited a while to read Queen's Shadow. I actually kind of was just looking for something to read, and I got it, resaled for like $2 online. Got it, loved it. And it was right when Queen's Peril came out. Read that, loved it. And now we have this book. I think I like Queen's Peril the best, maybe. I really like all of the intricacies of Padme coming to Coruscant and her navigating the politics and the social kind of arena that she finds herself in. I think that's really interesting. So I think Queen's Peril might be my favorite out of the bunch, but I love them all very much.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. How about you, Danielle? And by the way, I just call on someone to get started. You guys all feel free to jump in and talk.
Cool.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I also watched the prequels at a very young age, and I know I have different favorite Padme moments as I grow up. But when I was younger, Attack of the Clones was my favorite Padme. I thought the arena scene was a bi-awakening for me. But yes, I love the arena scene. I still do, but I loved it even more when I was younger. And now I think actually Padme and the Phantom Menace is my favorite of the prequels, just because you're right, she is the protagonist and we get so much. And if you compare her in the Phantom Menace to in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, you just get so much of her character, so much more of her character and her involvement than you do in those other films, I think. And one thing I feel that E.K. Jonston does really well is she takes that and like weaves it through those books. What we get of Padme and the Phantom Menace is expanded upon and just really fleshed out in the Padme trilogy. I read Queen's Shadow when Queen Shadow is the first one that came out, right?
Yes.
So I read that when it first came out, and then the others as they also came out. And I think that Peril was my favorite. I still really, really love it. The intricacies we get behind the handmaidens. But Queen's Hope, we're going to talk about it later, but it has a very special place in my heart now.
Yeah, I mean, Padme to me always represented what was at stake. When I first watched the prequels, like she represented, democracy, freedom, an uncorrupt republic, and just how the Senate was supposed to operate. And it came down to like the conversation that she had with Anakin at that time. She's like, we have to trust in the system. And then Anakin was like, well, they have to be made to, what does it say? They have to be made. I don't remember the quote. He just argues that it should be a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, please don't, Padme.
Yeah. They should be made to understand or something, or they should be made to, something like that.
Something like that. And she was always very strong and independent. And, I was disappointed in that arc in Revenge of the Sith and how, she was kind of made or sidelined to be someone who started off strong and had a purpose and had a will to enact that purpose to I must please Anakin. And it wasn't my favorite take on Padme, which is why I appreciate this trilogy of books, because a lot of the things that are written in this book are a lot of the things we should have gotten in the movies. And that shouldn't have been, like, there are some stuff that's in here that are actually filmed in the movies but were just cut. But I appreciate the additional context with the handmaidens and with her relationship with a lot of people who she worked with and the people that worked under her, particularly Sabe. And after reading Queen's Hope and just kind of completing this trilogy, Sabe is a top 3 character in Star Wars for me.
Whoa!
Wow!
Oh, I love that.
That's why I picked her to be the new Ethan Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
What would be Sabe's name in Mission Impossible? Saban.
Savon.
legitimately though, if we find out that Keira Knightley has a cameo in Obi-Wan, I will
No, I won't make it.
No.
turn into a cartoon character.
That'd be amazing.
It would be. It's unlikely whatnot, but if they went so far as to like go back and bring her back into it, I don't know, that would just be incredible. And for me, it's similar story to you guys. Always loved Attack of the Clones, and I always make the argument that people whose favorite movie is Attack of the Clones are just better people. It's not my favorite. I'm not one of those better people, but I mean, those people typically are emotionally intelligent. Mostly because the fan base abused them for so long.
It's true.
that they've had to learn. But yeah. Oh, real quick, we have the spoiler of congratulations to Element on his victory. So yeah.
Yay, congratulations.
So we're waiting for the ultimate matchup of us two. Hopefully that happens. But yeah. Anyhow, yeah, it was really odd in the third movie just to have Padme just brushing her curly hair in weird places. But and
did you say in weird places?
Well, listen. She I was like, she's brushing her hair, and I'm like, no, you don't. As someone who has naturally very curly, wavy hair, I'm like, you don't brush your curls. What are you doing? She's like, oh, girl, no.
Like, she's trying to get a fro. She's trying to get a fro.
George just gave her my favorite. It's like there's like just an image of her sitting on the couch. It's like I joke all the time about it, like sitting in rooms being pregnant, but that's literally what she's doing. Like George didn't even give her a book. I'm like, George, give her something to do. Like she's just sitting there with her hands on her lap, waiting for the plot to happen. And she's like, okay, I guess I have to walk over to the window now and gaze across the city, which no shade to that scene. I love that scene, but I'm just like, George, like give her a Game Boy, give her like something, give her like, sewing. So I don't know. I don't care. Like just give her something to do.
I think it says, sorry. I was just gonna say, I think it says a lot about her character though, that was built up to that moment, that she has one of the best lines in the movie, which is, so this is how Liberty dies, with thunderous applause. Mm-hmm. And just the way that Natalie Portman said that, like she did so much with so little. Yeah. And I just was like, imagine if we had so many more scenes of her with that type of attitude and that type of dedication to not letting this happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do absolutely love when, she was unconscious and she's on the ship. And she wakes up and asks, where's Anakin? Is he all right? Mm-hmm. Even though, he was the one that just choked her into unconsciousness. But but it just, that part just spoke like volumes to her character of, especially how she views the Republic overall. It's got problems and there's some crappy things, but we don't give up. We know it can be better. We know it can do better. And that's why it's called Queen's Hope,
Yeah. Yep. Oh. It's gonna make me all emotional. So bad, babe.
Well, okay, so with the other books in the series, who do you recommend them to?
Oh.
Well, okay, so I guess Queen's Shadow, I feel like was a good starting point, I think, for the series, just because it was new information. It was completely new. We didn't know anything about Padme before, in between The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, before the war started. and I liked that, learning how she's stepping in from this role as queen into this role as senator, because it's a stark difference between what we see in the Phantom Menace of her and what we see in Attack of the Clones. She has a new role, but she's completely accustomed to it now, and Queen's Shadow just kind of opens that up. And so I guess if people are fans of Attack of the Clones, they might like Queen's Shadow a bit more. Maybe that's who I would recommend that to.
Okay. I like it.
I usually recommend. I mean, I recommend the Padme books to just women. Just like read this, like you'll love it. It's E.K. Jonston is like, we'll talk more about it when we get into the book, but it's like E.K. Jonston, like it sounds so silly to say because like of course she does, but she writes girls and women, like all ages, like, you know, because this trilogy of books happens at different parts of these girls and women's lives, and she is so good and adept at writing them when they're younger and when they're a little bit older and then when they're like, you know, full grown adults. And she captures girlhood and friendships, like friendships between girls, like perfectly. And seeing them all, like I love when they're coming up with you know, the voice and the disguises and how to maneuver, and like it's so compelling to me. It's so interesting and intricate. But I also recommend the Padme books to everyone, you know, as well, like men as well, mostly because I always say do Queen's Shadow on Audible because the Padme books are quick reads. They're quick. On Audible, they're like 6 hours each. Like I'm like, you can put this on it if you have like a desk job or something. You can put this on at work and be done with it before the end of the workday. And if you don't like it, fine, you know, like then, you know, but I always say give it a shot. You know, it's not like I'm recommending Dune. You know, it's like 27 hours. You know, it's like, no. Like, no, they're quick and they're fun. And yeah, and especially if like I have a friend who has daughters and I'm like, read these to your daughters. Like they will love this and it'll be something fun for you to do together. You know, bet if you guys do like story time, you know, before bed or something, they will love this stuff. And it's also people who misunderstand her character. I always recommend. I'm like, you gotta read the Padme books. Like they're so good, and you will love her by the end. And it just gives us so much more. You know, it's like you guys know like the iceberg. Like I don't even know if you would call it a meme. Like, but it's like you have like the iceberg on the water, and then underneath the water, there's like tons more. That's like the little bit of ice on the water is the prequels. That is like the Padme we get in the prequels, and underneath is just this plethora of more character development. So I recommend them to everybody for sure.
I know that politics is usually a hard sell for a lot of people. Like for the bottom tier, it's like keep politics out of Star Wars. But for the next tier up of Star Wars fans, it's like, okay, I understand what's going on. This is how things are going. And I typically gauge them on how they react to Bloodline, which is basically politics, and it's basically all of the trilogy of Padme books kind of boiled down into one book, because it is politics plus intrigue and how she's dealing with, you know, her life with Han and Ben. So if they are a fan of Padme, if they can handle politics and they want to know what happens in between, and they think that Padme should have gotten more to her development, then definitely I recommend these books to them. It's also like, you know, 6 hours. You can read all three in like 6 hours. Quick reads.
Well, not everyone listens at like 2.5x, but yes.
These ones surprisingly was 3x.
Okay.
My God, I don't know how you retain anything.
Oh, because I read along with it. That's why. Yeah. It's just never fast enough at like 1.5 or 2. Like, because my natural modus is to listen and read, and 1x. No, I can't.
I agree with you there. It's too slow at 1x.
Point, they walked down the corridor. And then at
Sometimes
2x,
you
it's
need the
fine.
dramatic pacing. You need it drawn out a little
That's
bit to
true.
get the
I mean,
full experience.
I rely on the theater of the mind.
There are times where I'm like, oh, wait a second, I need to marinate in this. And I'm
Yes.
like,
No, yeah.
I'll drop it down to like 1.9 and kind of but like, yeah, I started at 1 and it kept pushing, and then that got too slow and I kept going. And my wife is now listening to all these books, and so like I hop in the car and she's listening to one of the High Republic books at the regular speed. And I was like, what is this? Like, I am gonna tear like this like listening to
I
love
it. It's like watching it on TV. I'm imagining like I'm watching a television show. Okay, yeah. Like this is how people talk. It's fine. You guys
Well,
are so
I might be
funny.
exposing myself, but I did slow it down to 1x when Sabe and Tanra were in the kitchen.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, valid.
I love it. Also, definitely want to shout out Kari. Thank you so much for the donation. Super appreciate it. It's also really funny how this like annotates the because on YouTube it's the actual sticker, but it explaining what it is is just really funny. I love it. And then also shout out to Escape Reality Films. It says I asked people for their favorite Padme moment, and I'd love to get all of your guys's as well. Because Revenge of the Sith could have been 3 hours long. My favorite moment is her forming the rebellion, but tricking Gunray during the Battle of Naboo is my favorite canon moment.
Mhm.
Love that. And then Acrylic Coffee Works says favorite Padme moment is impossible. Padme equals favorite.
Yes.
Which is true. One of my favorite things, though, that this because I really love Queen Shadow. The thing I want more of is books that happen during the movies, but it's a different side of the story. It's just a different perspective altogether.
Mhm.
That's why I want one kind of like what he was saying for Revenge of the Sith. That's just Padme's story, like during that time period, because I know crazy things were going on, and I really want one that's just Ben Solo's perspective during the whole sequels. I think that would be a crazy good book, like what was happening with him and Hux, and you know, Hux has weird sexual tension with him, but like it's just one way, and you're like, and it's very awkward. I think that'd be hilarious to read about.
I think my favorite Padme moment. Oh, are you?
No, I was just gonna say lightning round. Favorite Padme moment. Okay.
I think my favorite Padme moment is every time she talks back to Anakin. But also specifically when she falls out of the gunship and the clone is like, "We need to get you to safety." He's like, "No, we need you to do this. Go do this. I'll be right there." And then just like orders him away and walks off on her own and just like doesn't really care about the clones checking on her safety. She knows what she needs to do, and she's already on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, Anakin's like, "Go back! I'm jumping out of this ship right now."
Yeet! He's just like ready to risk it all.
I just want to see a deleted scene of them arguing, and Padme can see it as she gets up, and she's like, "Keep going, you idiot!
You idiot!
What are you doing?"
How about you guys?
God.
Do you have a favorite moment come to mind?
I mean, for me, I think, the one that jumps out to me is in the Clone Wars when she tells Anakin that they need to spend time apart because she's like, "You scared me. Like, this is a relationship." And she acknowledges like everything. Like, because the whole thing is like the relationship is built on secrets and lies, and it's like it can't last, And she's like, our marriage, what marriage? This is built on secrecy and deception, and your rage is terrifying, and you scared me. And I think we need to spend time apart. It's like, it shows this it's people kind of give her shit, because they're like, oh, why would you stay with Anakin? Blah, blah. It's like the most tired and dumb fucking argument ever. Sorry. But I'm just like, because she's a nuanced person and she loves him and sees the good in him. And, but it also gives her so many more layers that she acknowledges what's wrong and is like, this is something we need to like work on. And it's like, and with, in all honesty, if he hadn't turned to the dark side, like people like joke that their relationship couldn't have worked out regardless. I'm like, nah, it would have worked out. I definitely think it would have worked out. Sorry, the music just started playing and it like scared the shit out of me. I was like, what's happening? Is my phone ringing? That's not my ringtone. What's going on? But I definitely think
song
that
too.
Yeah, right? Like, ooh. But I definitely think that they would have made it work, honestly, if the stars were aligned with them a little bit. Because she's like, no, we got to work on this, and you're in your spot, and I'm in mine, and we can't bridge this right now, so we're going to take some time apart. It was very mature. It was such a mature thing to do. And yeah, I think that's my favorite moment, or at least the one that comes to mind.
Yeah. I love that moment too, but I guess what I always think of first when I think of Padme is, again, the Phantom Menace. I love everything about from the moment that she goes to seek allies with the Gungans, and when she gets on her knees and is like, I'm begging you, I'm asking you, no, I'm begging you. And I love that moment so much because it shows so much humility and so much of a willingness on Padme to do whatever she needs to do to save her people or to save her world, not just her people, but her world. And then from there all the way through the fight in the palace. I love the scene when they shoot the rappel guns up and they go up the window, and
there's that one guy that's super slow on the side because his gun's not working.
It's so silly, and I love it so much. But yeah, those are my favorite Padme moments.
Yeah, I gotta add that to mine too. I mean, the first moment she's in the Senate chambers and she's like, I have to go home. Like, you guys aren't going to handle this situation, so I gotta go back to my people. That was moment number one where Padme was just like, I gotta do this on my own.
Yeah.
For me, two moments, I guess 3 moments jump out. So they're talking, but Sabe or Keira Knightley is, physically the queen at that point in time, and we get the background in Queen Shadow of like, should we go? Should we do this? And then it's Natalie Portman, because we are brave, Your Highness. And you're like, It's like, all right, we're doing this. And after reading the book, you're like, all right, that's kind of badass.
Yeah, it is.
So there's that one, and then when they're on the ship and Padme is the one that's cleaning R2, there's just something very pure about that moment, I don't know, it's Padme being Padme. And then thirdly is her speech where she wins over the Republic on their funding. And Palpatine's like, God damn it. Like, and he even like his Darth Sidious's greatest opponent was Yoda, but Palpatine's greatest nemesis was Padme. And I think that's dope.
She beat him so many times, and that's why I really love about the Clone Wars is it shows even more just how many times she was a foil to his plan.
Yeah.
Love that.
All right, let's jump into the matter at hand. Quick, non-spoiler hit for anyone here in the chat, because I realize not everyone. St. Pat already said it. He hadn't finished the book yet, so that's okay. I try to wait a bit. But quick non-spoiler thoughts on Queen's Hope, and once again, who you would recommend it to, and kind of where this book places for you, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I can start. I have been saying this since I finished it, but I really think that this above all three of the books is truly a testament to the OG Star Wars women. And it's a great character exploration of Padme and of other women in the book. At the beginning of the war, how her relationships, not just with Anakin, but with everyone in her life, changed. And I understand better why in Revenge of the Sith she's so alone, and why there's that feeling of kind of like melancholy around her. And especially the heartbreaking scene, the parallel between her and Anakin right before Anakin falls is like made even more, I think, like expressive in Queen's Hope. Just because you know everything that you find out everything that happens before that led to that moment, and for her specifically, not for Anakin, but for her. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I would recommend it to all female non-binary Star Wars fans, and then to all Star Wars fans in general, especially if you have like children who are Star Wars fans or who you want to be Star Wars fans, because this, above all of the books in the series, is the one I wish that I had when I was younger. I wish I had all of them, but if I had to pick one, it would be this one.
Nice. I love it.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Pat.
Go ahead, Aggie.
Okay. This book was amazing. I loved it. It really just, I mean, yeah, Danielle, you're so right. Like, I didn't even think about that, but that makes so much sense. Like, why she is so alone in Revenge of the Sith, as these friendships they're not gone, but they've God, how would you describe it? They're not gone, but the time has passed. You know, it's this feeling of melancholy as her handmaidens have, obviously, she and her handmaidens have grown up and they're living their lives now. You know, they don't need to do this anymore. And even though that time was so terrifying and it was so wrought with, you know, pain and war and all of this, there was a joy to that time for them because they had each other and they had like this rock that they were clinging to, which was each other and their sort of this collective that they had formed. And it is kind of slowly watching those pieces fall away, and until Padme only has, you know, kind of what she's doing politically, and then, you know, what she's doing, you know, romantically. You know, she's gotten married. There's such a God. It's like my only criticism of this book, real criticism of this book, because what's fair is fair. I always have criticisms of everything constructively, is that this book felt a bit like less like a part 3 and more like an epilogue. You know, to Padme and the handmaidens and Sabe, it felt much more kind of like this epilogue and less like a part 3, which is, you know, fine, honestly. Because it makes sense. It makes sense for where the story is in terms of the prequels and where the story is set. There wouldn't be another adventure for them all to go on. That wouldn't fit in. So that's not on E.K. Jonston at all. It just, it almost kind of like, I was sort of waiting a little bit for sort of like the adventure to happen. And when I realized it wasn't, and I realized like what this book really was, it just made me so sad. And I was like, oh, this makes sense, but I'm sad, you know? But it was wonderful. And there's so much to talk about, you guys. I can't wait. And again, I would recommend it to everyone, especially young girls, because God, it's just written so well. And it's like, especially compared to, and that's not that I don't think the gentlemen can write women well. They certainly can, but it is fun. Like, I remember when I initially listened to Queen's Shadow, I had just finished a Legends book. And like the female writing in this like old Star Wars book, I was like, oof. And I did this like Queen's Shadow, and it's like, oh my God, it's all women, and it's just written by a woman. Oh my God, this is great. And I was like, man, this is like so different. And so I was just kind of laughing to myself, like, yeah, like what was it? Shadow of the Empire or something, where there's like a straight up sex robot in that, and I'm like, cool. And then we get this instead of like, oh, this is nice. So yeah.
Yeah.
I love
There's
that
some
book, though. I
questionable
love that book.
Shizor stuff
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. I love it, but
I always describe Legends as America, F yeah.
yeah, really, truly. It's fun. I love it, but it is that like, oh, this is definitely of its time.
I mean, I would classify all of the Queen's books, and in particular Queen's Hope, as essential reading for anyone that's a fan of the prequels and a fan of Padme.
Yeah.
Because what's written in these books, and in particular Hope, is like a grander picture of how Palpatine maneuvered the Senate in such a way where even removed from the Jedi battles and the Clone Wars, the battle that was being fought by Padme in the Senate, and it's always wonderful to know that it's not just, you know, these big bills that they're trying to pass. It's like the work that she has done and the work that's being done for the smaller folk of the galaxy, these smaller little, you know, macro issues that are being taken care of. Because a lot of times when we watch just the prequels, you get a lot of questions, and I'm sure Chaco gets a lot of questions too about like, why didn't the Republic do this? Why didn't they go against slavery? There's a lot of intricacies to think about when it comes to governance, and it's always fun to see the behind the scenes of Palpatine's manipulations and how Padme was fighting against that stuff, unbeknownst to her that she was fighting the Sith Lord. And you know, it's such a great look into how marriage and love changed Padme internally, which affected her relationships with all of her handmaidens who had started out in this trilogy as like die-hard loyalty, you know, do anything for Padme. To see that some of them could be hurt and some of them could, you know, change their view on, you know, following someone blindly. And I wouldn't say blindly, that's for lack of a better term.
Like ride or die.
The relationship changed as love and marriage changed Padme, and there was an interesting look into that story and how everyone of her handmaidens they came into her service with specialties and left her service expanding upon those specialties. And I thought it was awesome. Sasha's work and Sabe's work, especially Sabe. Like I feel like I misunderstood the assignment and fell in love with Sabe.
I mean, same. It's okay.
Yeah.
Sabe is easy to fall in love with.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we'll just jump into full on spoiler territory. Real quick, I do want to say my other Padme favorite moment because I just thought of it. And it's because I was on the opposite side until Padme said this, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you're right." And it's the moment after they sneak back in from the concert. And Panaka's like, "How dare you do this? How am I supposed to protect you? You need to stay here." And I'm like, "Yeah, that was irresponsible of her. She shouldn't have gone out. She should." And then Padme's like, "All right, listen, I'm going to need you to step down. First of all, your job is to protect me. My job is not to make your job easier. Let's get that straight. You need to stand down. If I choose for you to be there, then you can. If not, you have to work around me." And you're like, the way she like stepped up, I was like, "Oh damn, okay." It just reminded me of when Anakin was like, "Oh, this is what we should." And she's like, "No, he's just a Padawan learner. Don't listen to him." Anyways, what were we talking about?
Yeah,
love that moment. All right, jumping in full spoiler territory. I just hit me with the feels. What you love about this book, your thoughts. I just saw the TikTok last night where E.K. Jonston confirmed that Baby Shark is canon in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
can't get away from it.
And,
No.
and we also know that the Wookiee ship is the Wellerman backwards. But yeah, what jumps out at you guys?
Oh, the vignette. The vignette. Like that is
Oh.
genuinely when I realized that the first vignette was Shmi, because you don't realize it at first. It takes a minute. And when you
Yeah.
realize that, I've started crying immediately, and then I barely stopped for the rest of the book. But yeah, they're just so beautifully written, like genuinely beautiful exposition about these women that we never got enough about, and just heartbreaking. And I was saying to Camilla after I finished it that it was just like we got the 4 Skywalker moms here. For once, like all in this one book, we got the 4 Skywalker moms, and it's just something so powerful about that.
Yeah.
And you never knew who she was talking about until partway through. But it took till the very last line that I knew they were talking about Baru, and I was like, oh, I love Baru now. I didn't.
It's
Also,
I,
is this
well,
the
go ahead,
first time we know her name to be Baru Whitesun before Lars?
I knew, but I don't know how. So maybe.
I'm
For the-
skeptical of it. I'm just kidding.
for the first one, what really got me so hard was like, and this is very much so like original trilogy and prequel trilogy, which is as it should be, totally fine. But when it started, I thought it was Rey, and for a minute, and I was like, "Is this Rey?" Like, and then when I realized about halfway through, I'd say probably about halfway through, that it was Shmi, it hit me even harder because like then I started comparing, like I started correlating the two of them. And I was like, oh my God, they have so much in common. Like, this is like extra painful now. Oh no. And just like, they both are like in the desert trying to make it to tomorrow, putting themselves to backbreaking labor, and they feel alone, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, and I was like, is this Rey? Like, but wait. And then when you find out it's Shmi, I'm just like, oh my God. And then, they were just, yeah, they were incredible. They were so incredible. And yeah.
I love the vignette about, how hard it is to do what she's doing and to get back up and try again. I almost felt like that one could have been about Leia as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just how parallel or how same their lives echo each other with their activism and their fight against the power that wants to control everything, and that was just incredible. It's also just a fun little message for yourself if you've ever felt like it was too much. Just keep going.
Yeah.
But also, Breha's. So I was waiting for Breha's. Once I realized that it was the Skywalker moms, I was like, she's got to be in here. Where's she going? Where's she going to be? Where's she going to be? And then to be the last one, I was like, of course. I feel like we don't often enough talk about Breha's influence on Leia. And I felt that really shone through in her vignette about how she gave everything for her planet, where she could have chosen herself over her world, but she didn't. She chose the world, and everything she did was for that, and she sacrificed everything for that. And I view that so much in Leia when it comes to the rebellion, and then the new Republic, and then the Resistance. She's just continuously sacrificing for something bigger than herself. And I recognize Leia so much in the Padme one, but also in Brea's.
Yeah. When they talked about how like her mechanical, like, because she has a mechanical heart, and what else?
I think it's heart and lungs.
I think, is it
sure.
heart and lungs? Yeah, like I just like, I don't know, just the way that passage was written just like made me feel so many feels. This is why you got to listen to it at the normal speed, because then the feels happen. I'm joking.
But if I can
yeah.
stay ahead of my tears, it's like a storm is rolling in.
I can outrun the feels. Oh God.
I think I mean the entire book stands out to me because there's so much character work that's going on across all of the handmaidens post service to Padme, and then dealing with Padme getting married. But I think the one thing that stands out to me just the most is when Anakin and Sabe like just happen upon each other. Like I have this weird heartcanon that like there's a deleted scene where he gets into the bed and starts to like snuggle with her, and Sabe's like, "What are you doing?"
I thought that's what
how
was
she
going to
finds
happen.
I was so stressed. I was like more stressed, like reading this, because like she's like gets into bed and then she's like, oh, she hears the door open, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, what's gonna
screamed.
happen? Me too. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And then it just cuts to
It's
like,
Clovis.
who are you? And Anakin's like, who are you? And she's like, no, who are you? And he's like, what the fuck do you mean? It's just like this like weird like Spider-Man meme standoff where it's like, what is going on? And like because they are both understandably freaking out, and oh my God, the other part that like just completely ripped me apart was I mean it all ripped me apart, but the one of the main parts was so I really I love Anakin and Padme together. I think they're super cute. I've cross-examined myself 5,000 times. No one has to do it for me. It's fine. And it's but I like them together. I think they're fun. I think like there's a lot there to enjoy, and I think the tragedy of them is also what makes them compelling. So I like it. I ship them. But when Sabe finds out that they got married, it was devastating. It devastated me because like Sabe like talks to Anakin and she's like, okay, like I get it. Like, okay, fine. Like you're pretty charming, you're handsome. Okay, she's fucking you. Like, cool, fine. Like, I get it. I'm not judging. And then when he's like, well, it's my job, it's like I take that oath so personally to protect her. And then Sabe is like, she married you. And there's that beat. And I'm like, oh my God. And it's so and I'm like, because my heart just hurts for her.
She did this all for him. And I was like, oh, like, like changing her schedule, moving the handmaidens around.
Yes.
None of the handmaidens stay on the same level as her anymore. And she's like, she didn't do this because she wanted to change. She did this because of him. And I'm just like, oh, I felt that.
Yeah. I mean, additionally, how I don't remember which handmaiden it was, but additionally, when Sabe finds out that one of the other handmaidens knew, and she was the last one to know.
Yep. She was the last to know. Mm-hmm. It's like because they capture that. Like the thing that E.K. Jonston captures so well is like the intensity of female friendships. And Danielle, I feel like you could totally like you so understand this, but like the intensity, like female friendships are really intense, especially when you're really close with somebody. And sometimes, like you become best friends with another girl and you're best friends for years. And it's like, maybe something's there, like there's something unspoken happening. And if the world was, if circumstances were different, if where you were in your life were different, like maybe that this relationship would also be different. But then at a certain point, like the moment's passed, and it's like kind of where Sabe and Padme are, because Sabe is in love with Padme, like she is, but what I love about, and Padme to an extent, like there's also something there. It's not one-sided, and But I think one of the things that E.K. Jonston captures so well is that there's a like Sabe's got a candle lit for Padme always. There's something there, but it doesn't, they're not, neither of them are paralyzed with their feelings. Like, no, they like live their lives. Like Sabe's like, okay, like I acknowledge that I have these feelings for you, but I'm gonna go live my life. Like I'm not gonna be, just like, paralyzed with like my feels. Like I'm gonna go do my thing. There's something there, but like, we gotta keep this, we gotta keep moving here. And so much so though that like that moment's passed and Sabe says it. She's like, it's not like I thought she'd pick me. Like that's not it's not like I ever expected that, but I just always thought there'd be more for her. And it's like I always thought she'd pick more, is what she says. And it's so, you so understand, and like there's so much queerness here, and it's just so beautiful, and it's just great. Yeah.
And it's just when Padme comes back and Sabe has the talk with her and they break up.
Oh my God.
With a big breakup of the book.
Yeah.
And she says, my hands are yours. Please don't ask for them again. Like,
Yep.
I don't think that there's a worse like breakup or more like devastating, I think, because we know what it means to say for them to say my hands are yours. It's just ugh.
The climax of this. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think, and E.K. Jonston confirmed that is the last time Sabe and Padme ever saw each other before her death. And it just makes it worse.
The climax of this book is a conversation between two women. Like, there's no battle, there's no big conflict. Like it's just a conversation between two women who love each other, and a breakup, and it's so devastating, and it's like I was like, it's coming, oh I can't do it, it's so devastating. But Danielle, you're so right when she's like, my hands are yours, but you can't ask for them again. It's just oh God.
Yeah. if you need me, I will be there no matter what. But it will break my heart. If you love me, please don't call. Like I think
I recommend Vader 2020.
That scene hits harder too.
Oh.
That scene hits so much harder too. When you when you think of like last time they're in this situation, he's like, can I sleep here still though?
I can't go back to the temple.
But what's one thing that EK does really well in this though is all of the action and intrigue and all those things are still there. They're still in the book, but that's just not the catalyst for the things happening. But there's still scenes that like really hit me, like when Palpatine talks to Sabe, and you realize like, oh, he's doing some dark side stuff this whole time, and just like raising everyone's paranoia and all this. Like that scene was crazy to me.
His POV, I wasn't expecting for there to be a Palpatine POV in this book. And it was written so well. Like I read it in his voice, and like it was so good, that whole scene with Sabe. And just amazing.
It's also a really good go ahead, Pep.
I was just gonna ask, are you all up to date on the latest Vader 2020?
I started reading it, but I have to catch up. I think I know most of what happens though. I know. There's a lot of Vader comics, okay? But I know the Vader 2020 run is like the best. I've read a lot of
the
Vader
latest
comics.
issue.
I'm sorry.
I'm one issue behind.
You haven't read oh gosh, read it now.
I think I'm one behind.
It's really great.
Are you caught up, Danielle?
Yeah.
It's that's the priority when it comes to Star Wars comics for sure for me. Like I'm like, you gotta catch up. it's, I mean, yeah, like I think the Palpatine Sabe scene, oh god, it's so
No
good.
spoilers. Middle
And
spoken.
it and but one of the things that I think illustrates it so well is how much of a hard time Sabe has in this book being Padme. It really drives home how it's different now. Everything's different. It isn't like when they were younger. You know, it's not the same, and how she has trouble with it. And she, you know, is trying to be Padme. She's trying to get the voice down. She's trying to get the mannerisms, but it's hard for her. It's really hard. And it goes to show that like there are other forces at work here, that it's not just because Padme got married. It's because the world's different and the war's different and everyone's priorities are different. And that's another part where Sabe's like, she was the best too at impersonating Padme, you know, the queen, you know, and even she's like, man, yeah, I you know, it's like when I, you know, go out with friends and I'm like, we're gonna party all night, and then I'm like, man, it must be so late, and it's like 9:30, and I'm like, man, it's not as strong as I used to be. Holy shit, you know, man, I'm not 22 anymore. And yeah, like, so there's those other factors there that really affect her, and she's like, this time's over, man. Like, I can't do this anymore. It's hard.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie though. I feel for Tanra. He's just that guy's made of sterner stuff, you know.
He, you know what? Knew what he signed up for.
Yeah. But another thing that really like struck me in this book was the intelligence, like the emotional intelligence of Padme when the person behind the scenes helping. Oh, we lost our Eggie. She'll be back. When the person behind the scenes helping revealed themselves and they're another Nemoidian.
Yes.
And she's just like, oh, hell no. And then it's like, no, I guess it would make sense. Like they're not a monolith. And like has this whole, you know, internal conversation about, you know, she has this whole internal conversation about her bias and then gets over it like in that second, but acknowledges it, that it's a thing. And that's the hardest thing, is getting people to acknowledge that you might be biased by your previous interactions, and you should stop and reflect on that, you know, like why is that so hard?
I love that so much because it's such a stark difference between like imagining Anakin in that same position. Like, no, I would have gone very differently. And it just shows again, you know, their different demeanors, their different ways of handling things, and I really loved that.
Yes,
Amazing
she
Jedi.
Padme would have been the best Jedi.
Yeah, if she was a Jedi, none of this would have happened.
She would have
Just
been
none of this shit would have
Yoda's.
happened.
She would have been Yoda's Padawan, and then every time he said something a little bit off base, she would have spoken back.
Yeah.
I feel like you know how people say if Qui-Gon had lived, Anakin would not have turned. I would say if Padme were Yoda's Padawan, the Jedi Order would not have fallen.
Agreed. Agreed.
I'm a clone girl, so I have to take a minute to talk about my clones in this book, because as soon as E.K. Jonston announced this book, I was like, they're going to be clones because it takes place at the beginning of the war. There has to be clones. And there were clones. I mean, first of all, there was a mention of Cody, and I got freaked out about that. He says one line. It was very exciting. But my favorite thing that we learned about the clones is the clone sister tells us that they leave the helmet of the clone where they've fallen. And I wasn't prepared for that, to learn that little tidbit of information about them. But yeah, and their helmets are such a big part of who they are. And learning that about them, and that Anakin was there for that. I liked that, because as much as I do enjoy that we get so much more of Padme on her own in this, I did like the bits of Anakin we got as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Watch Clone Wars season 7 finale all over again, knowing that, because they
Yep.
didn't
That's what I was thinking.
they
Yeah,
didn't
same.
have a place that they fell, so they had to prop them up on sticks.
I know. I cried in that too. I'm telling you, there was barely there were more places in this book that I cried than I didn't.
Mhm.
I'm just picturing you just like always with a glass of water, just like, need to hydrate. We're going back in.
I read it in a day after I got the e-arc. I was like, okay, everything's getting set aside today, which I'm lucky I can do that. But and just read straight through it, and my partner was listening to me scream and cry in the other room the whole day.
Oh God. And their wedding was so, I mean, the wedding is so weird in the movie. It's like, I mean, it kind of makes sense, I guess, you know, because there is a somberness to their wedding, because their wedding and the beginning of the war coincide. Like the war begins when they get married, and the war ends when like they break apart. So it's fitting. But there's such a somberness to the wedding in the movie that I really liked the indulging of it in the book. I thought it was very romantic, and it was very like we got to actually like, you know, have that moment with them. It was really, really, you know, it was really sweet. And yeah, I really liked that. I thought it was really, I'm just like, we got to kind of just spend a little bit more time with them, because like, it's like, and I think that, you know, like, and people who are in long-term relationships or who are married understand too, though, but like marriage just does change things, you know, like when you get married or when you're in a long-term relationship, you know, things, you know, so I feel like a lot of times people have that experience where they kind of brush up against their close friends who maybe aren't in a relationship or who aren't married, and maybe like they don't understand, you know. I've never had that experience. My friends have always been very understanding and stuff, but I know that happens. Like, you know, why does everything have to be different now? It's like, well, because it does. Because I'm married now, and I can't like just, you know, it is kind of I will say I never really believed that marriage changed things. Like I was like, oh, whatever. Like me and my husband had been together for like 7 years before we got married. And we ended up getting married because I was like, I need benefits, help. And he was like, okay. And but I was always like, oh, marriage doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything, but it kind of does. It's interesting. So I did feel for Padme when, you know, because of course it's not even something that she can talk about, for God's sakes. Like usually like marriage is something you can celebrate with your friends, and she had to keep it a secret from these girls, and except for Sasha, yeah, except for Sasha, you know, and even then it was kind of like Sasha's like, I'm not gonna ask, here's your thing, you know. And she couldn't even like celebrate this with her friends, with her sisters, you know. It's just, and she's alone, you know, and it's like, but I felt for her because, you know, things did change, and it's like good, you know, if it's like if we look at her just getting married as an isolated thing and not like, you know, the war and the bullshit and how we know it's going to end, you know. I felt kind of like when Sabe was kind of, how do I describe this? It's not like I was switching alliances or like I picked someone I agreed with. Like, no, I agreed with all of them, you know. But like when Sabe was kind of, you know, why does she do things this way? I'm like, because she's married, Sabe. Okay, it's different now. Like you have to be understanding. Like, you know,
the priority
like,
shifted basically.
Yeah,
you know,
priorities shift.
because Padme says she had planned to sit down with Sabe and have a talk with her to reveal everything. But the order in which that info was revealed, unfortunately, did not line up with her priorities. So, you know, the plan was always there.
One thing I really liked at the beginning with the wedding was I feel like this was where Padme's internal strife was most prominent, was at the beginning, because she's never done anything for herself before. It's always been in service of something else. And you can see that where she's constantly going back and forth between feeling sad because she can't include her friends and family in this moment, but then being like, no, but this is for me. I've never done anything just for me. And I want it to be like that. I want it to just be me and Anakin. And then back to being sad that she can't have her handmaidens, and then saying, no, this is for me. And then when she's ignoring the calls from Bail Organa and everyone else in the Senate. And I found myself struggling with that too, because I was like, this is so like not the Padme we've seen before, like ignoring calls from the Senate. Like, what are you doing? And I realized that's what it's meant to be like, is that's her own struggle with knowing she has a job that she has to do, but wanting to take these few days to experience something she never has allowed herself to experience before.
And it's funny because she's never wanted to before, you know, and that I think that's one that really is interesting. Also, I want to, I don't even know how to broach this, but like when she returns to the Senate and Bail greets her and there's like, oh, are you healed up? And she's like, yes. But she says my wounds were like in a place that was embarrassing or something like that.
Yeah.
She's talking about dropping on the reek.
She has to be. That was my immediate thought. Yeah.
I was like, oh, has Shaylee read this yet? Like that was my first thought. I don't know, it just made me laugh. But no, that beginning scene was because like you said, they're all in their own places, and it's interesting because the Jedi in their beliefs are all pretty unified, but as time goes on, they become separate people. The clones, identical template, become separate people. And these women are, because of circumstance, were meant to play this one girl, and they've all grown beyond that, you know, even Padme, and just seeing, you know, that echo out of time changes all things and all people was just like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting older and like, damn it.
It's like it's sobering. It's like things change. Things can't stay the same, you know, as much as we wish they could sometimes. But like, you know, so like, have you guys, everyone here has seen Tangled, right? Yeah. So do you know when Rapunzel leaves the tower for the first time and she's like, this is the best day ever, and then she's like, I am a terrible daughter, and she keeps on going back and forth? That's like what like Padme felt like to me, where she's like, I'm getting married, and she's like, I am horrible and selfish and I shouldn't be doing this. Like, no, I want to do this for me. Like, look at how hot he is. Yes, let's go. You know, and then I'm horrible and I am so selfish, and you know, I can't tell my friend. It was just like I so understand that feeling. Like, yeah, of just being like, I just want to do something for me, and but yeah, Danielle, that was funny. She that fluctuation, and when she finally just gets to go swimming and she just feels at peace for 5 seconds. It's. I mean, when you're a public servant, you know, she spent her whole life doing everything for other people and for her planet, and it is kind of this weird
in public.
Yeah. Oh yeah, in public. Yeah.
One more thing. We got the resolution of the awkward moment from. To me, it felt like truly one of the most awkward like moments I can recall reading, is when, you know, the girl that Sabe was vibing with approaches Padme, and she's like, I gotta go. And then we get the echo of that in this book of being like, yeah, I think I came onto the wrong one.
That's funny.
Like, I don't know, it made me chuckle.
I liked that whole, you know, springing off of that. I think that it was Sasha's story about what she was doing for Naboo as a part of the government there, and with Naboo's moons, I think it was. I really liked that little side story, just to see what was going on, and how Palpatine was still trying to like mix in with things in his own planet still, and try to mess things up over there, and then with Panaka as well.
Panaka is such an interesting character. What an
Sorry.
what
I get sad when we talk about Panaka.
I
yeah,
know.
it is. It's so
Very
sad that like slow like because then the entire time I thought of wait, hang on. It's Leia, Princess of Alderaan.
Mm-hmm.
I just every time Panaka was on screen, I just thought of Leia, Princess of Alderaan, when he's like he knows, he's like, you remind me of someone. Like
How old are you again?
yeah, and how he kind of just, because he becomes a moth, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah, and like he kind of Panaka to me is the type of guy that like I see a lot of myself in Panaka. It's like it's kind of that just kind of like a get along guy that's like, yeah, I'm gonna just keep rolling with this. Oh, this is what's going on. Okay, I guess so. And like, and like, but like that, but also like I see myself, and it's like, and I see like that idea of like, don't be that. Like, don't ever like sort of like just like just kind of like, I guess this is how things are now, and I guess that's okay. It's like, no, it's not okay. Like and just like he's such a tragic character. He's a quietly tragic character. Yeah, and yeah. When he talks to Leia, and he's like, "How old are you? You remind me of someone." And it's and then he dies, and it's so like and he's a very interesting character, and I always feel for him. It's not easy being Panaka,
No, not easy being one of the captains Panaka.
Yeah.
Awesome, I love it. Well, because I feel like we've covered most of the book. Question I have to ask for reasons: is this book too woke?
You know,
I mean, I did a 3-minute long video about that already.
What? Hit us with the highlights.
Well, I guess my problem with that terminology for this specific book is that is it woke to include characteristics of people or people in general who exist in real life when we can include the regular or not regular when we regularly included non-marginalized people in these books? Is it then woke to include other people who also exist? I don't think so.
No.
In contrast, not including them, would you like your media to be asleep?
Yeah.
Exactly. Just a reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what I want. Just a reflection.
I mean, there was one video that I made a video on about Padme being racist. It has nothing to do with the book, but when I first watched it, I was like, is he talking about Nemoidians? But because like even then she kind of got over it. But no, it is something completely different. There are people who just, I don't know, real life to them just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so I mean, like, when you get the comment, y'all got your Asian superhero, now take a step back, and I'm just like, okay. Their life is all about quotas and numbers. Like, you should just touch grass. I don't know.
Yeah. It's such a like, I don't know, man. It just makes me sad for them. I'm like, it's like the idea that like, because the only explanation that I can think of is that you've seen yourself in media constantly your entire life so much that you think the inclusion of anyone else is like erasure to you. It is bizarre. It's like, what a bizarre headspace to be in, and what a sad place to be in. I mean, Brandon, I'll never forget when you posted this video, and I quote it all the time because it stuck with me that hard. But when you said, you're like, my existence is not political. Like, me being here is not political. Like, that's not how this works. And I use that all the time now. Like, whenever people are like, oh, it's what I'm like, someone existing is not a political statement. It just means they exist. And also, like, especially when we look at the sister clone, like it's like not only was that really, really cool to see, it also makes total sense. Like makes total sense. Like you have all these clones being engineered, you know, it's like they're all not gonna, but they all come out a little different. A lot of them come out a lot different. Look at the Bad Batch, like for God's sakes, like look at that situation where it's like, oh, you know, like something went differently, or like, you know, I don't want to use the term something went wrong because I love the clones and I like don't want to imply that there's anything wrong with any of them. But it totally makes sense that the sister comes out different. Like, yeah, that makes total sense. Like, yeah, I can totally see that happening. And then Anakin Skywalker said trans rights, and I was like, hell yeah. Yeah, like she explains it, or they explain it to him, and he's like, yeah, that makes total sense. And it's like, yeah, and it's just, it was so cool to see that. And then we have the non-binary character, which was super cool. And yeah, like just people existing is great, and I like seeing people who are different from me. I don't know why people don't like that, but
it's just, and that's the thing, is that it's just people existing. It's just people existing. It's not
there's no like, activism in there. It's
no, none at all. And that's why and you know, the thing is that if certain people have read the other books in this trilogy, it shouldn't be a surprise about the LGBTQ representation in Queen's Hope.
Yes.
Is it even more in Queen's Hope than it was in the others? Yes, but it's there in the other ones. And so if you already know that you don't want to read that, why are you accepting arcs for books that you know aren't going to have what you want in it? We all know it's to be a menace. That's what it is. To be a menace.
I just know that, you know, it's frustrating when you have a world full of tentacled beasts and aliens and all kinds of species, and the thing that you can't wrap your head around is neo-pronouns. Like, are we expecting to travel to Mars, find an alien species, and assume that they're going to go by normal pronouns? Like, no, they probably identify as Blarg. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you guys said it perfectly. It's just so as far as who this book is for, if you're someone that unironically uses the term woke, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So after reading this series, and basic question: who do you want to see a book on next? And you can't say Sabe because we all want to see Sabe.
You know what? I want.
All right, if you have a pitch for a Sabe book, I do want to hear it though. But I'm like, that's just too easy of an answer.
Okay, I want little Ray, like young Ray. I would very much like a young Ray book, and a Breha book. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say Tanra, and the work that he and Sabe do on Tatooine. So by proxy, Sabe's in the book, but Tanra is my answer. But if I have to step away from that, I would say the Children of Tahar and Ayla.
Oh yes, Ayla.
Where is she now?
Yeah.
Who do I want? I mean, we talk about getting I want a Finn book so badly. I love Finn, and I want to see more from him. A young Ray book. It sounds so good because I just love her. I would just be sad the whole time. I would just be like, no, you're alone. It's bad. I'm sad. But I would love to see more Ray content too. I think that the sequels are I think mostly like sequel characters are coming to mind for me because it is such a blind spot still. Like we have a lot of prequel books. We have a lot of maybe not so much like original trilogy after the original trilogy. We get a lot of that character work. We're getting a Luke story coming up with Lando, which is very exciting. So we're gonna get that. So like Chaco talked about a Ben Solo story, which I would die for. I'd love to see like just his. I'd love to see like everything that happened in the Rise of Kylo Ren, like before. Like I'd love to see that. That's so interesting to me. I'd write it. Like Disney, call me. I'll write it for you. But
put your submissions in for the next from a certain point of view.
I mean, I've heard like people have gotten their breaks through that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I can't believe I forgot to say Hera. I read A New Dawn recently, and I loved it because I love the character work on Kanan. But I really want a solely focused Hera book. I don't know from what period. I think before she met Kanan, so before A New Dawn. But I really want that.
I just love Kanan like in the alley watching her as a shadow just handle people, and he's just like full on himbo mode, just like
down bad from the get-go.
Wow. Like I picture him sounding like Keanu Reeves.
Or Nicolas Cage.
I loved the Hera episode. I loved the Bad Batch so much. And I loved the Hera episodes in the Bad Batch. And I remember when we were watching them and she and Omega have their like little friendship, and I was just, and it was like, and of course like the Bechdel test is not the be all end all of like feminist like media. It's just an interesting thought experiment, but it is cool when stuff passes it. And I was like, and the Bad Batch passes the Bechdel test now because we have two female characters who are both named talking about something that is not about a man, and just like how to fly the ship and like their little I love seeing like young girls forming friendships is something that we see so rarely, and I love it to see it. And it was cool to see her family too. Hera is so cool. I would love to get a Hera book too.
Yeah. Just give us all the books.
It's everybody.
No, it's true, because I there's certain things that you just personally I didn't notice, but being, I didn't notice that none of my media ever displayed women as having any sort of relationship other than being antagonistic towards each other. You know what I mean? Like I go for years without ever seeing like them being friends without one of them secretly hating each other. And it was like wrapping your mind around it. For someone like me, it was just like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because they're just like people.
I got
they just
so
exist.
Yeah, they like, wow, like I got so on that topic. It was really just like a little side note. Like I'm a casual Final Fantasy fan. Like I am not really big on JRPGs. It's just not a game format that connects with me. But I have a lot of respect for the Final Fantasy series and blah blah blah. I'm sorry. I have a lot of respect for it. But when Eric, my husband, was playing the Final Fantasy VII remake, Tifa and Aerith show up, and I'm like, great, here we go. They were never like outwardly antagonistic towards each other, but it was always like, who's gonna get the fucking spiky stick in the mud? Fucking Cloud, like I'm like, God, they should just date each other. You could do so much better, whatever. But when like they like meet and they're like, wait, let's have a shopping day and Cloud can carry our bags. I was like, oh my God, they're actually like friends. Like it made me so happy that like it wasn't just, like, cause that's something that I just get so, but like, cause all the media growing up was just that. And I'm like, can they like just be friends, please? I need,
Oh, I love it. So actually, going back, I thought of the book I want. I want a book that is Bail Organa and Mon Mothma on this side, and Palpatine on this side, and it's a purely political book. And
Ooh.
both of them, they're going to the same functions and stuff like that, and they're saying this stuff to each other, but all of them have their own agendas. They're trying to start the whole rebellion. They're trying to, Bale and his wife are trying to fund things. Like, the whole end of the book was amazing when you figure out like how much other stuff Alderaan was doing while pretending to be pacifist was crazy. So I want a book where like there's all this civility in person, but Palpatine's like sprinkling like evil juice on like spritzing people as he's walking by, and they're like trying to convince people. I don't know. I would love that book.
That
You know,
sounds awesome.
One thing I noticed in all of the books and comics that include Palpatine before the rise of the Empire is it's so good. I hate Palpatine. I hate him. I love him as a character, but I hate him. It's always so good when you see him sprinkle those little things because you know, and you're just like, oh, vindication for hating you. And like in the Obi-Wan and Anakin comic, I recently read, and the scenes where he's taking Anakin
Clubbing
to the underworld, grooming him down to the underworld of Coruscant, and like planting these seeds in his mind and all of this stuff, and like actual like grooming happening there, and it's just done so well. And then, like we said in the Queen's Hope book, when we see that happening with Sabe and with Padme, and it's like I hate it and I love it at the same time. It's just done so well.
Yeah, that made me very uncomfortable in that story.
Yeah.
And it also was like, how can you hate Mace Windu? He's like, no, that's a bad idea. Why do you want? No, go away.
Mace trying to stick up for Anakin's innocence there.
Dude, I'm so happy I've done a complete 180 with Mace. Like, I used to because Brandon, you're so right. Like, I realized that Mace Windu and what's Walter White's wife's name? I never watched Breaking Bad all the way through, but I know of it. But you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, you know how like
everyone hated her.
Everyone hates her. And because she's like the character that's like, the oppositional, like kind of blockade character to your protagonist. And like, we want to see Anakin succeed. We want to see Walter White succeed. So we like automatically will hate anybody that stands in their way. Like, you're so right, Brandon. Like, that's like who Mace is. And I'm just so happy I did a complete 180 on him, because I'm like, yeah, Mace was like Mace was like had some like maybe his approach to some situation. Like, I'll always laugh about in Revenge of the Sith novelization when he's like, let's just take back the Senate right now. And everyone, you're just like, okay, like maybe not right now. He's like strapping lightsabers to himself. He's like, let's just go. We'll make him give it up right now. And everyone's like, dude, it's Tuesday at 2 p.m. Like, wait. But he was right. He was totally right. And but Mace is I'd love to get like a Mace canon Mace book. I know we have Shatterpoint, but I know that's not technically canon anymore. Or it never was or whatever. But but I mean, Matthew Stover's got to be the one to write it, but I don't think he writes for Star Wars anymore. But yeah, I'd love to get like a Mace story, because we need more justice for that character. He's so cool. He was right the whole time.
But you're dead right. Like, Skylar is a pregnant woman with a disabled son. Her husband has cancer, and he's out selling meth. Of course, you're gonna be like on edge, little bit.
Yeah,
but
stop doing that. Everyone's like, "Fuck this bitch." I'm like, what? She's right.
No, but on that though, I do want to go ahead and draw this to a close. I appreciate you guys coming out, talking to me. Awesome conversation, awesome book with a bunch of awesome people in general. You both need to come on to Celebration next time. But yeah, if we can go around one last time, we'll just do any closing thoughts that we have, which could be about anything. And once again, where can we find you in your amazing content? And I will go to Miss Aggie first.
Okay. I'm Miss Eggy on TikTok, Miss Eggy28 on Twitter. Come hang out. I'm working on, and I'm gonna say that I'm working on this because it's gonna force me to actually finish it. Because I'm saying it here, so I have to follow through. I'm doing a top 10 favorite Batman video series. I have to do a video for each movie on my list because I tried fitting them all into one video and it didn't work.
Oh,
I tried
no way.
doing it in 2 videos. It didn't work. I tried in 3. It didn't work. I was like, okay, you have to do them individually. And I've been working on this for like a month and I've refilmed them a million times and I need to like commit now. So this is my sign. I'm going to do it. I'm going to post it. So I'm going to start posting those soon. Yeah, that'll be fun. But also follow for more Star Wars 2. We got Brotherhood coming out. So I'll definitely be posting my review on that when that comes out. And we have so many great books coming out. I'm so excited. And any closing thoughts? I just love Padme. I love her. It's a close race between her and Rey because I love Rey so much, but I love them both so much. But I think Padme skits out just a tad as my favorite female Star Wars character because she's just so different. And I just love her femininity and her strength. And but thank you guys so much for having me on. I love talking to you guys. Daniela, it was so nice meeting you and chatting. And I had a blast. Thank you so much.
Yes. And I very sincerely hope that now that the Batman is on HBO Max, we'll be getting some more Aggie Batman content. And also,
I've been posting.
I need some. I don't think I've seen any Aggie Moon Knight content.
I posted a review for episode 1, but
okay.
I have to watch the newest episode. I like it a lot. I think it's really good.
All right. And how about you, Danielle?
Yeah, written in the Star Wars on TikTok, written in the SW on Instagram, and I am currently doing a lot. I'm always talking about clones on there, and also Rebels. So always defending those 2 on there. Last thoughts would be, one thing I noticed when it comes to like reviewing, especially the Padme books, is that a lot of times people want to review it based on what they expect it to be and not what it is. And what it is a really good character-driven story, really good character-driven trilogy. And I just want people to realize and acknowledge that if something doesn't have to be action-packed and thrilling for it to be meaningful, and character-driven stories are just as, if not more meaningful than action-packed, thrilly stories. And especially when we're dealing with characters where we know so much about them, but not enough. And we're trying to fill in those gaps. And so to me, the perfect story for Padme is a character-driven story.
Okay. I love it. So yeah, definitely follow Danielle and definitely read some Wolf fanfics. Pep, how about you?
Yes, I am _element7_ on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Element7 on YouTube. If you have any questions on Star Wars, feel free to ask in the comments, and I will answer them in the most entertaining way possible. I think, according to me. Let's see. The final thoughts. I encourage everyone to just read the books. Find something that you'll like, whether it's a character or an era or just a title. Just start reading because you only get more Star Wars. You don't lose anything. If you don't like a book, then you don't like a book, but you still got more Star Wars, and that's always a good thing. And I encourage everyone to also help in creating the thought or concept that Oppo Rancisis is the weirdest thing you've seen in Star Wars, and not the existence of people.
Mm-hmm.
What you mean a heavily bearded 4-armed snake monster Jedi is weird?
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see that.
Not wrong. Weird.
Weird.
Interesting.
Yes.
And yeah, so thanks again, everyone. Everyone, y'all know where you can find me, but pretty soon you'll be able to find me defeating whoever is the champion of the Podwans podcast trivia tournament. This will be a more entertaining match than when Obi-Wan and Vader go at it again. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Lofty expectations.
I'm not gonna
We'll
put that
also
up.
we'll also be doing the Battle of the Dyads too. So if you have a partner, a dyad, it's going to be trivia with teams.
Yes.
So if you have someone, a dyad that you connect with, that you want to participate with, go ham. That'll be coming soon.
Yes. Anyhow, thank you guys so much.
Thank
Everyone
you.
have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
evening, and may the force be with